Recently, as most of you know, Storyteller has made some statements which indicate her discomfort and intended disassociation with the No Worlds Barred YouTube channel. The comments come after a long, prolonged hiatus from No Worlds Barred. In these comments, it is mentioned that a member of the channel has been found to have engaged in sexually predatory behavior and that No Worlds Barred has not yet demonstrated enough to ease concerns that they are promoting an atmosphere that discourages this kind of behavior. Worse yet is that this member of NRB has been accused of and personally admitted to engaging in similarly sexually predatory behavior in the past. They were given a second chance to make good on self-improvement, but according to what we can see from his comments, this person has not grown from the experience and has instead thrown away the charitable goodwill that they were offered. As many are aware, No Worlds Barred and its parent company, Trident Digital Media, are in partnership with the Pandemonium Institute, creators of Blood on the Clocktower, and have been major factors in introducing members of Connecticut Blood on the Clocktower community to the game. This statement has nothing to do with No Worlds Barred's internal investigation. Connecticut Blood on the Clocktower has no affiliation with them, and nor does this statement have anything to do with the further conversation as to whether TPI should have made a partnership with NRB in the first place, given this person's past transgressions. Quite honestly, that's just not the conversation we're having today. However, we are fans of and content creators for the game Blood on the Clocktower, a game which has been a central part of my life and the lives of our community members for many years now. As of today, TPI has issued 0 public statement disavowing sexually predatory behavior, like that suggested in these comments, 0 affirmation of support of victims of sexual abuse or harassment, and 0 public statement of any kind in regards to the recent news at No Worlds Barred. To be unequivocally blunt, Connecticut Blood on the Clocktower does not tolerate, has never tolerated, and will never tolerate sexually predatory behavior, nor do we wish to be associated with organizations that encourage it or choose to not actively discourage it. Full stop. I would hope this is not a particularly controversial line to take. Our community leaders have spent nearly the past 4 years working together incredibly rigorously to provide a place where our members don't just assume, but unquestionably know that they will be safe, protected, and allowed to come as they are. There is no place for harassment, bigotry, hatred, or predation in our community, and past instances of it have been dealt with swiftly and harshly. To be perfectly frank, I am profoundly disappointed and saddened that the company that makes this amazing game has opted for silence rather than even a blanket statement reaffirming a stance that shows 0 tolerance towards sexually predatory behavior. The silence, so far, speaks far more than I think they realize. While there may be desire to speculate about why there's been a lack of announcement, we don't believe that it would be helpful at this time, and instead are focusing on what we would like to see from TPI. While it's good to hear that there's no one condoning sexually predatory behavior within TPI, fans of the game should not have to rely on secondhand conversations to know that that's the case. It should be front and center in full view for everyone to see. Now, some of you may make the argument that given the radio silence coming from No Worlds Barred and the Pandemonium Institute, we simply don't know enough about what actually happened to expect a statement and ought to wait for the official internal investigation to conclude. To that, I simply say, no. Given this person's history, and given the suggestion, even the hint from someone with close ties to the organization that this type of behavior is not just continuing, but being permitted to continue behind the scenes, that is enough for me. The burden is not on the offended, but the offender to prove themselves. Now, obviously, this puts me in a very precarious situation. On the one hand, I wish to have nothing to do with this game until I can be persuaded beyond doubt that that TPI understands the importance of voicing their stance on this type of harassment. On the other hand, however, we have an incredibly tight-knit Discord server that does far more than just schedule games. We have grown to become a resource for those victims who experience this type of harassment and to feel safe, and become a lifeline for those receiving hatred to connect and feel a human connection based on love and tolerance atop the foundation of Clocktower. And so I've made a decision that has not come easy. The Connecticut Blood on the Clocktower server will continue to operate unhindered in order to continue to provide resources to our members as they need. Offline games on our server will continue as our members wish, since we know that the escape that this game provides is often therapy in and of itself. However, until the Pandemonium Institute issues a public statement flatly decrying sexually abusive behaviors in peoples, we will be engaging in a content blackout. There will be no further updates to this YouTube channel. There will be no further Twitch streams. There will be no further promotion of Blood on the Clocktower or Clocktower related events, and I will be abstaining from further games. I know this is going to disappoint many people, but understand that your disappointment is mirrored in our disappointment with the lack of transparency on what we believe should be a no-brainer issue from the Pandemonium Institute. It costs one nothing to speak out against sexually inappropriate behavior and actors. It costs a lot more to opt not to, as silence supports the status quo, and these days, the status quo protects abusers. We are hopeful that TPI comes to understand this in the near future. But until then, we've resolved to go dark. Please continue to take care of yourselves and one another, and stand up to those who would engage in actions that prey upon others. I hope to see you all sooner rather than later. Goodbye.